So Strymon came out with a plugin. That's insane. I don't think it's an overstatement to say that the Big Sky is probably the single most recognizable guitar pedal maybe ever. In the guitar world it's huge, but also in the keyboard world. You know, I have definitely gone out of my way to incorporate Strymon pedals into my workflow live. That's super, super common, and a lot of people do that. The fact that that same exact sound you can just toss into your project as a plugin, I think is pretty insane. And I'm wondering what that's going to do to Strymon as a brand, but also the reputation of the Big Sky. Because even though Strymon's pedals are digital, they're running on a chip, they've always had this allure of being hardware, and that having this not analog component, because everyone knows that they're digital, but it felt really special and really like, ooh, we're gonna run these synths, you know, yeah, we'll run them through pedals, run them through Big Skies and stuff, you know. So the fact that that's a plugin now, I wonder if that reputation is going to go away, and it's going to end up kind of being the same thing as, you know, a Valhalla Verb or something. So yeah, I'm curious to see kind of what the general perception of the Big Sky is in the years to come. I also found with pedals, like, I would always make about 3 or 4 different reverb sounds, and then I would kind of just use those all the time. You know, you'd have your cloud thing, you'd have maybe a spring thing, and your plate, whatever. You'd find your sounds that you liked, and then, you know, your staples would always kind of be there. After using the plugin for a little bit, I have found myself experimenting so much more and getting so much more out of like the more fringe modes that aren't really used very often. I think that's another thing that's really cool about it being a plugin is it being super easy to have multiple instances of it running in different places in the project that I probably wouldn't have gone out of my way to drop it as an insert of like, okay, let's send an output and then print it through the Big Sky and then bring it back in for something like a shaker. Like, I just wouldn't have gone through that much work to do that. But as a plugin, yeah, let's drop it on there and let's throw some spring and let's see what, you know, like it allows me to experiment with it far easier. What I wanted to do is just kind of tour the plugin and just kind of run some different stuff through it. I have a project here that we're working on. So yeah, let's just start poking through some stuff and kind of see what I was able to come up with. So I'll just play a snippet of the track so you can kind of hear a brief context for everything, and then we'll kind of go through and show what the Big Sky is doing. So yeah, that's kind of the idea. Now we'll kind of go through and I'll show what's happening. So I had this string pulse thing going. We can hear the Big Sky doing a lot of shimmer work there. And shimmer has kind of been a boogeyman where, you know, it is overused. But there's still ways to get interesting sounds out of it. I find the stuff that annoys me about shimmer is always the like absurd brightness of it. It just gets like so out of control so fast. So having shimmer in here, but literally with the tone essentially all the way off, and using it just to kind of reinforce that fifth thing, is really neat. And then I'm kind of also with some EQ, I was like identifying where that fundamental is that's being added, and then kind of reinforce that a little bit. So of the shimmer that's being added, you can kind of see just bringing up that note that it's adding, that fifth. So yeah, really cool. That to me is like using a shimmer, but it's not like look at me, I'm a shimmer, I'm taking over your entire high end. It's a little more respectful, which is cool that it can do that. Then I'm using it for on the kick drum. I just had a little spring reverb here. Yeah, just really brings it to life. And that's an example of like, I never would have sent that out, you know, out of the DAW into a guitar pedal back in. I just never would have taken the time to do that. But as a plugin, I'll, you know, oh, I need some sort of extra air on the kick. Oh, now this Big Sky is part of my toolbox that I can grab for that. That's awesome. You know, so like, I think that it'll get a lot more use as a plugin than as a guitar pedal, at least in my workflow. And then we have this little percussion layer here. Here's it without the Big Sky. And I added one to kind of do a pre-delay, almost like a delay. And then I added another one just to kind of give it some space. Yeah, super cool. Then I got all these kind of ambient sort of things from the Matriarch. You know, a Moog into a Strymon, it's very difficult to make that sound bad. It's always going to sound pretty good. But I was messing around with this like choral mode, which I've like never used, you know, on when I'm playing guitar. But because it's a plugin, I don't know, it's just easier to mess around with these different options. Here's without. So it's just adding all sorts of cool harmonics and high-end stuff, you know, really, really cool. And then, so for the intro, I kind of had this, like, here's without anything on it. The Matriarch has like a built-in bucket brigade delay. And so at the end of the take, I just, you know, let the feedback go all the way up and kind of created a little swell thing out of it to then use for the intro. So we have this kind of swell thing, and I wanted it to, you know, add some reverb to it. But on accident, I figured out that if you drive the input of the Big Sky, it really doesn't like it, and it kind of starts to distort in a very like interesting way. That seems to be different per algorithm. Like the different algorithms, probably just based off of how they're like diffusing the signal, it sounds really different. Like the drive that happens when you push it too hard on the input. So here's what that sounds like. Here's it dry. And then here is it with the cloud mode, and I'm driving it a little bit. I was like, oh, that's pretty neat. What happens if you do that again with another instance of the Big Sky? Also driving it, not as hard, but still driving it with a different mode. And then from then on, it was just a rabbit trail of like, all right, let's throw you know, a tape echo and push that super hard, and then a tape machine, push that super hard, and it ends up into this kind of monster thing. This is kind of squashy, nasty thing. Never gotten distortion out of a Big Sky that I thought was cool before, but in the plugin one there, you can get cool distortion out of a Big Sky. Who knew? So then I got these little acoustic harpy things. Very pretty. And so this is, I think, probably like when I think of a Big Sky, this is like more what I think of using it for. Yeah, and that sound isn't like crazy exciting necessarily to me, but it's exactly what I needed it to do. And I found that, like, just from my familiarity with using Big Skies, it's so easy to get what I'm looking for out of the plugin. It behaves exactly like the pedal. It's pretty neat. This one, I had a lot of fun. So this one, I was messing around with the swell mode, but playing lots of notes into it, and so from a piano, and so it would swell some of them, but then some of the transients of the notes would slip through, and it created this really cool effect. Just creating these cool little moments, you know, that kind of just like are kind of pushed off to the side, and just kind of all improv'd it. Really fun. And there's another piano layer that's like actually chords. And for this one, I was messing around with the bloom mode. Just really beautiful. Lastly, I have some vocal samples on the OP1, and I put the Big Sky on that. I added a little chorus just to mess it up a little bit more so it wasn't quite so clean. So yeah, I mean, that's the Big Sky. It's definitely worked its way into my live setup for sure. You know, I'm definitely going to replace a lot of sounds, a lot of reverbs that I have with this, just because it's so recognizable, it's so usable, it's so playable. Like the way that it, especially like the bloom modes and the swell modes that are so reactive to what you're playing. To me, like, that is so different than some of the Valhalla stuff. Even the quality of the Valhalla stuff is incredible as a reverb. The shimmer is amazing. Supermassive is crazy good. But they don't react to my playing like the Strymon stuff does. I find that, like, I come up with ideas. I come up with parts with Strymon stuff that the other reverbs don't give me. And so yeah, I think it's super valuable to have this as a plugin. The elephant in the room of like the price of $200, you know, it is a lot. It's a lot for a plugin, for this type of plugin, like an effect. But you know, I was thinking, like, compared to Valhalla, if you have Valhalla Vintage Verb, if you have Valhalla Room, you have Shimmer. I mean, just those three, that is $150 to get all three of those kind of modes. Big Sky's 200, and there's 12 different algorithms that all sound very substantially different. And I know you can do like in Vintage Verb, you can do plate and you can do room and chamber. Like, you know, there are different modes within that, even though the reverbs work kind of differently. But I don't know. It's hard. I think I'm just trying to justify it to myself a little bit. Valhalla stuff is great. It's a fantastic deal. But the Strymon stuff, there is something there that's different. You know, they are their own sort of thing. And if you can swing it, if you're familiar with the Big Sky already and you want to bring that magic into the DAW, you know, that's kind of crazy that you can do that now. So I'm really happy with it. I'm definitely going to use it a lot. I'm glad I bought it. But if you think it's a little too expensive, you know, the Valhalla stuff is amazing. And I think Valhalla can accomplish pretty much all of these use cases here. Like, you could swap out Valhalla for these and, you know, I think it would be fine. I think it would be fine. The spring is the only thing that, like, having a good sounding spring reverb as a plugin is actually pretty rare. There aren't that many. So the spring alone is definitely worth talking about, because there's a lot of variety in the type of spring reverbs that you can do with the Big Sky. So yeah, it's rad. I'm a fan. I think it's a really, really great piece of software. If you like this video, like and subscribe, please. It helps me out. And if you're interested in learning more about music theory or production in general, I have classes available on Skillshare. I'll put the links to those down in the description. If you sign up for my newsletter, you'll also get an EXS instrument of my Moog Matriarch that I made. Link for that is in the description as well. My name's Solo Ray. I'll see you guys next time.